If you say in your deck to LPs, our platform is helping founders succeed, as the person in the role, you're kind of like, well, I want to know that that's true more than anecdotally. And so I would say that's a big trend, just the idea of like platform ROI and platform leaders taking the lead on wanting to do this.
Hey everyone, this is Alistair and welcome to the Venture Variety Show, where I talk with founders, investors, platform builders, and others who are shaping how startups and the stories around them get built. Really excited to bring you today's guest. It's Cherae Robinson from Flybridge. Cherae and I talk about her unexpected path from founding a travel company to becoming head of platform and marketing at a VC firm. She also talks about what she's learned building community from the inside and why the best founders have what she calls an earned secret. Oh, and she's also a DJ, and she's the second guest I've had on the podcast who DJs on the side. And so, yes, we also talk about music. So let's get into it and meet Cherae. Hi, Cherae. How are you?
Hi, Alistair. I'm doing well.
Great. Well, thanks for joining the show today. Tell us who you are and where you work and what you do.
So I am Cherae Robinson. I am head of platform and marketing at Flybridge. Flybridge is an early stage venture firm in New York and Boston, investing in our AI-powered future. In addition to leading platform and marketing at Flybridge, I also am an investment partner in Next Wave NYC, which is a Flybridge pre-seed fund. And I usually invest in consumer AI companies, AI and belonging, AI and culture, AI and creativity, that kind of stuff.
Is everything AI these days?
At our firm, but that's another that we can talk about that later. But yes, everything is very AI these days.
And to be, as long as we're on the topic specifically, it's Flybridge is AI across the board, enterprise, Gen AI.
Yeah, so we tend to focus in sort of three buckets. So the first one is sort of AI infrastructure and for AI builders, and so that's one way we think about things. And then the other bucket is vertical AI. So we used to talk about vertical SaaS. Now we're talking about vertical AI. So AI for industry, solving industry specific problems at scale. And then the last bucket, which I think is really fun and is probably my favorite, is what we call native AI. And so in the same way that before the social internet, we could have never imagined Instagram or Facebook in the way we can, we're looking for like, what are going to be the net new things that we can do with AI that we actually can't really imagine. And so that's the one I'm most excited about. But we tend to invest in those three buckets. And I would say the infra and tools is probably where we as a firm has had the most success. We invested in MongoDB, and that was sort of a huge like developer tools sort of startup. And we've done a lot of that at Flybridge. And
So I want to talk about the path that you took to Flybridge. Everyone is unique. I don't have any stats, but I don't meet many people who were founders, operators, and then joined venture firms as platform heads. You're in a unique position. Tell us about your path to Flybridge.
yeah, it's funny. I first connected with Flybridge in 2017, which is insane to me that was 8 years ago. At the time, I was 3 years into bootstrapping a company called Tastemakers Africa, which allowed people to like book tours with locals in African cities, which was like very avant-garde. I mean, this was even pre-Airbnb experiences at the time. I was like watching what Uber was doing with peer-to-peer, and I was like, what if you could like do peer-to-peer, but like with tours, and you can just get local people to like do tours, even if they're not a tour guide. And in these markets where tourism was chronically underdeveloped, I thought like this could really work as an access point and as like a narrative changer. I had raised some angel investor money, and I was like bootstrapping from that and like startup competitions. And TechCrunch did this office hours for diverse founders. And so I was connected to Chip Hazard, one of the founding partners at Flybridge. And we had this great conversation. And he was just like, you seem great. We would never invest in that. And that was like kind of like what it was. But fast forward 2 years, we'd made a lot of progress. Charles Hudson over at Precursor ended up doing our pre-seed round. We'd really moved fully into technology because when I first started the business, like without investors to back us. I had to figure out how to make it a revenue generating business from the beginning. And so we were doing like group tours in Africa where like I would host them myself and we were selling them out on Instagram. And it was like a whole community driven marketing sort of flywheel. But by the time I like got reconnected to Flybridge in 2019 via Natalia from Pipeline Angels, we had come a significant distance in revenue and following and visibility. I think I had just gotten named to this like people changing the way we travel list from Condé Nast. And the biggest thing was Eric Blatchford, who was CEO of at Expedia, had agreed to do a pretty sizable angel investment. And it turns out that Eric and Chip Hazard had known each other for a long time. And so when I talked to Flybridge again, they mentioned like, hey, I mentioned like, oh yeah, I'm doing great. Eric, just invested 250K in the business. Like we're doing great. And that obviously changed the conversation. Flybridge decided to lead our seed round. So that's how I met them. But building a travel company in the pandemic was not for the faint at heart. And so unfortunately in 2022, I had to make the decision to like put a pin in the company and figure out what I was going to do next. But I had built a really good relationship with Flybridge. Jesse Middleton, who ended up leading the investment from Flybridge, was on my board, was right by my side through the whole like, maybe I should shut this thing down pandemic moment. So Flybridge at the time was thinking like, they had just closed, I think, Fund 2022, which was their largest fund of $116 million. And they were thinking about like, how do we actually build a community across these hundreds of founders we've invested in? And, how do we supercharge like what we do as a firm? And so they were looking for someone sort of entrepreneurial, really good at community building, really good at connecting with people. And funny enough, internally, they were like modeling this role after me, but they were like, but it can't be Cherae because she's a founder in our portfolio. But like as they were building it out, they apparently were thinking of me. Like I found this out later. And so I think like 2 weeks after I sent the final, like, I'm shutting this down memo to my investors, Jesse was like, you want to go for a walk? And I was like, in my head, I'm like, not really. But I'm like, okay. And, he told me about the role and they were just shaping it up. And so we kind of just like kept in touch. And I think in the beginning, I was kind of like, I don't know. But I really liked working with Flybridge as an investor. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I lived in New York now. And so I really needed to figure something out. And so it just felt like a good use of these skills I'd gained over 7 years. Like I had just been a founder, and an early stage founder, which is a little bit different. I mean, most founders who join venture firms, they come after an exit and they come as investors. And that's usually the path. And I hadn't heard of a founder joining a venture firm not as an investor, but I hadn't had an exit. I, only gone to seed. And so, I was in this like weird post-founder, like venture backed, which was a big deal, but like COVID sort of obliterated the thing. So it was just like a weird spot. And so I kind of felt like I'm like in these people's shoes yesterday. Who better to
Right.
sort of meet them where they are because we invest at pre-seed and seed. And so it was like, I literally was just doing this. And so lots of lessons, had done a full cycle and lots for me to learn, inside of Flybridge. Because at the time I wasn't thinking about being an investor or anything like that. So I felt like it was like a win-win for them and for me who sort of needed a place to be. They had already been trying to find someone with like my archetype and now they could just hire me. So it just kind of worked.
I like this story for a lot of reasons, and kudos to Flybridge for recognizing your personality, abilities, and talent, and how you would be perfect in the platform role.
Yeah,
Did you ever imagine that you would be working for a venture firm?
never, never. I mean, to be honest, I never even thought I'd build a tech company. Like
Yeah, there you go.
I had a degree in biology. I went to a historically Black college, Morgan State University in Baltimore. I was a bio major. My first decade in my career was like working in global NGOs. Like that was me. Like even when I started the business, I wouldn't have called it a startup. Like there just like wasn't language that I had, let alone that I would like go raise venture capital on my first go at being an entrepreneur and end up working in venture. And now, it was just not on my radar. I didn't even know what venture capital was when I graduated college. Like, never heard of it.
Well, have you ever heard of the platform role, the
Oh,
platform
definitely
position
not.
event? Right.
Definitely not. Even as a founder, because let's see, my two biggest institutional investors were Precursor and Flybridge
Oh, okay.
and X Factor Ventures, which is a sister fund to Flybridge focused on female founders. And none of them had platform people. This is 2019.
Right.
Platform also wasn't that many, most firms didn't have a platform person. Literally blew up since I've even been in my role. So now it's almost table stakes. But in 2019, when I was a founder, it was not table stakes.
It is table stakes now. Can you tell us how does Flybridge define the platform position? What do you do in the platform role?
Yeah. So I would say a a big chunk of my job is supporting our founders, and that sounds really broad. And so, like, what that really means is one, like encouraging founder connectivity. And I normally do that through events, but sometimes that's like one on one off, like, oh, you should talk to this person, which means like spending the time to get to know our founders, both as builders of companies, but also as humans and trying to think about like who would work together. I mean, we have more than 400 portfolio companies, so
Mhm.
it's a lot of people. So it's creating opportunities for them to engage and learn together. It's creating opportunity for them to access our network. We've got 20 years of investing experience under our belts across our GPs, and they know a ton of people. But on a day-to-day basis, it's really hard to like pull that out. And so one of my jobs is to be the person that does that and leverages the Flybridge brand and network on behalf of our founders, build relationships with industry and potential customers for our founders. So that's one part of it. And then like I help with recruiting. I help with fundraising for the next round. Right now, the biggest thing I'm thinking about is go to market.
Mhm.
In the world of AI, when you can spin up a product much faster and even get revenue, in the millions of dollars much sooner than you could before, go to market becomes an important differentiator for companies and an important tell of their future success. The other part of my job is sort of more broadly community and events for the purpose of deal flow and sort of brand visibility for Flybridge. At the end of the day, your returns are only as good as not just the deals you end up backing, but the ones you see. So how do we see things? It's the job of our GPs, but it's also dinners and events and conferences and our Founders Day, which is like a big thing that I do is Flybridge Founders Week, and I'm obsessed with it, and I love it, and I love that our founders love it. So really thinking about like deal flow and community engagement. And then I'm head of platform and marketing. And so I also wear the marketing hat for our firm, which is newer. When I first was hired, I was head of community. And then I kind of was basically doing everything besides back office and investing. And so we sort of shifted my role to platform and marketing, which sort of encompasses also firm brand, firm narrative, conversation. Who are we? What are we investing in? What is our thesis, and translating that from our GPs into the world.
Amazing. And yeah, not every firm has a platform position. Many firms have marketing people that maybe bleed into kind of this platform, with the community engagement, helping founders with fundraising or even media. Take us behind the scenes. How did you build this from the ground up?
Ended up being like pretty strategic because you can be like inundated as a platform person. Think about the venture ecosystem. There are so many people trying to connect with like a venture-backed founder.
Mhm.
And so every day there are emails with people wanting to connect to your founders. And so year one, I really decided to like lean into the fact that I had just been a founder. And so I really sort of focused on getting to know our founders, only content and engagement of our founders, I was like hosting dinners in all of our major markets. I really just wanted to like establish trust. I felt like I can't market anything to them. I can't, help them with anything meaningfully outside of like, here's our perks portal. If they don't trust me and they don't know me and I don't know them. And so year one for me, I kind of like barely took meetings with other people. Like I very much was not trying to be like, I don't know, friends with all the people in platform even. Like I The first 6 months, I was really like tunnel vision. Like, if it's not our founders, like, I don't want anything to do with it. That was like kind of how I moved for the first 6 months. And then in the second half of my first year, I was like, okay, like I am creating things through the lens of what did I need as a founder. If any of these firms that backed me, like, could have helped me more and maybe could have helped me avoid needing to shut my company down, what would those things have been? And the first was really like connectivity, and like connectivity with founders, connectivity with customers, connectivity was a big one. And so I really, really focused my first year on that. And then year two, I started thinking about like, how do I make the things we do programmatic? And so the first thing was like partnerships. I'm a one person platform team, like is the case at many funds. And I knew that I was going to have to get really great partners to be able to execute at the scale I knew we needed with the size of portfolio we had. And so everything from like partnering with the Grand for leadership and mentoring and peer groups to partnering with Atlas so that we would have an easy way to like find candidates, rather than building a whole recruiting function, which is expensive and something like I don't know what I would be doing because I never did that before. And so it really was about, or partnering with BAM to do all of our
Yeah.
PR and marketing. And so I really was strategic about finding people I could work with whose work I trusted to sort of execute chunks of the work that were necessary so I could really focus on sort of the founder to founder relationship. And so that was like my year two. And now that I am finishing year three, it's been okay, who is Flybridge in the world? And how we treat our founders and their outcomes speak for us? And where do we have to do like a little more work? And so that's kind of the ecosystem that I've built. And also like how can we do that in a differentiated way? Like I'm a creative person who happened to become a tech entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so I brought that to this role. So we did a thing at South by Southwest this year where we had founders and investors like who also did music on the side do like a morning jam session.
Oh,
Like I DJ'd, my colleague Dorothy played the violin. Like we just like did that. And so like also like being myself in the space and using that as a differentiator for Flybridge, the firm.
so being a former founder yourself, and now you're, ensconced in this platform role, what is the biggest um, learning or lesson that you can give to founders today? What do they need to know?
What I will say is in this particular market, you're really best to build something that you have like an earned secret on. So something that you have a unique insight, whether that's a unique access point for how you go to market or a unique insight to like what's coming in the world. Like I really feel like having that is mission critical for founders today. And then paired with that, you really have to understand what it means to be relentless. And I know it's like maybe sounds cliche, but like the founder journey is no joke. You have to somehow be like a politician, a diplomat, a salesperson. Like you really have to do all of those things well because you have to keep money in the bank. You have to keep money in the bank and you have to hire good people. And those two things just require you to be a person that can like wear many hats, but ultimately really be like the ambassador for your company. And so I think though the like have an earned secret and be prepared to be that person that gets people to follow you. I think those things are the most important things, especially after we move into a space that like is hyper competitive and in a market that's like topsy-turvy.
What do founders expect from platforms today? Are they expecting everything from, you mentioned it, fundraising help to, you know, uh, media outreach, recruiting? Are they
Yeah.
expecting the whole kit and caboodle from platforms?
It varies from founder to founder. Some founders have been in this startup world, and so they are able to form an expectation because they've had some exposure to venture or things like that. Ultimately, founders are looking for investors that go beyond the check, even though the check is like really important. I think we like to like over over index. I'm like, no, the check is really important, but ultimately the check is a first step. If you're a really solid founder, you're really looking to be able to leverage that venture firm's network. And so I think like customer intros are top of mind, especially for founders right now. Recruiting and talent is also top of mind because being able to sell and being able to have amazing people around you are the most important. If you have those things, fundraising is usually easier.
Hmm.
Fundraising is something that, like, of course, we help with because we know our peers and we build those relationships. But I would say those first two are what I think the best founders look for from a platform team and from the GPs in the fund. I think platform at different funds looks differently because platform people have such wildly different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And so expectations are also, I think, dependent on who's in the role. So I'm a former founder in the role. I find that a lot of our founders that I do spend time with have an openness with me that I'm not sure they would have if I hadn't been a founder before. Because there's just like a this person gets me sort of energy. And
Interesting.
I'm able to, I find myself being a person that also talks about like thornier things with founders that maybe they aren't going to talk about right away to a person making an investment decision.
Now that you've been in this role for, you said you're finishing your third year, and so you've met a lot of the people in the platform community. Are you noticing any shifts in what platforms provide? What trends are taking place?
I would say from my perspective, more and more people in platform specifically are thinking about, their direct impact on portfolio outcomes. I think it's maturing as a role within firms. And so as that maturation continues, the question of ROI on platform is becoming louder and louder, and people are really trying to figure out how to measure something that's often intangible. And so I feel like some of the best people I know are like really creating systems to crack to like track every touch point and really be able to try to understand like where does this outcomes is this driving, what value is
Mm.
it driving? Because if you say in your deck to LPs, our platform is helping founders succeed. As the person in the role, you're kind of like, well, I want to know that that's true more than anecdotally. And so I would say that's a big trend, just the idea of like platform ROI and platform leaders taking the lead on wanting to do this. I mean, I think in some places you're seeing GPs ask for this, but I really see a lot of like leadership from my fellow platform folks that are like trying to do this for themselves. And then I think the other thing is like specified platform help. Like one of the things I think is interesting is like the rise of like the embedded go-to-market person. I think you're starting to see firms specifically hire people for things like go-to-market in a way that like the generalist was maybe more popular earlier on, but now you're seeing like really specific roles and you're seeing them lean on operators who are experts in that space to fill those roles.
Lots of great insights, Sheree. I would like to end on this. You mentioned the Southwest by Southwest event that you had. Can I mention that you're a DJ, that you're a music
I am a
aficionado?
DJ.
So did you DJ
Yes.
the South by?
I did. I DJ'd so much at South by actually. It was really
Oh,
funny
really?
because I DJ'd our event and then Mac Venture Capital does this culture house thing and I ended up like DJing that as well. So it was like I was really doing like double duty.
Well, you wear many hats. Do founders know about your love of music? Does that
Some of
come
them,
through?
some of them do. Some of them definitely do. Um I did a little like DJ mini set at the first Founders Week that I was like at the helm of. And so we were on this roof at the Arlo Soho in New York City. And
Oh,
I
cool.
think our founders were just like, what is happening?
And what do you normally spin? What's your jam?
So I'm a big like Afro beats, I'm a piano.
Hmm.
I've traveled a lot and so lived abroad. And so I really think of it as like a dance party from the global south is kind of how I think about it. But I'm also a New Yorker, so you're gonna hear like hip hop and stuff like that as well.
Any final bit of advice for wannabe entrepreneurs or founders out there who are in this, in this stage of their life where they're trying to get their company going?
Yeah, I think platform people I feel like are like an unsung hero in venture. Like they do a lot of work. They're very much embedded in their firms and they can be a resource. You could ask them questions that maybe you're not as comfortable asking an investor. And so if you meet a person who says they're head of platform at a firm, like, and you have a deck, like send it to them. Let them check it out because They may or may not be involved in their firm's investment decisions, but they definitely have a lot of insights and are often more than willing to share them. And so I think like as you're thinking about how to break into venture firms, if you're raising your first round, that might be a resource that you might not as an entrepreneur like know about. And if you are a venture-backed founder and your firm has a platform person, I just encourage you to lean in. People are often multifaceted and can probably help you in more ways than you think.
Oh, that is great advice. Well, thank you so much. It was fun hearing your journey and hearing about your taste in music, and of course, hearing how you work in the platform role at Flybridge. Thank you very much, Cherae.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Venture Variety Show. That was Cherae Robinson we just heard from, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation. You know, a few things stuck out with me. Cherae talked about how she leaned into her founder experience to build trust. And she also shared her thoughts on go-to-market strategy and how platform roles are evolving to drive real returns. In the near future, I'm going to have more content, more podcasts with platform specialists and PR people, so stay tuned. In the meantime, please remember to like and subscribe and share this podcast so others can check out the show too. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can also check out my other podcast, The AI Cognitive Shift, which I co-host with AInews.com to explore how AI is impacting society and the future of work. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time.